some 70 plays written by the most popular playwright of the English stage in Victoria's time is known to anyone but archivists today.
That same fate befell the works of England's most honored composer of the period. His oratorios, odes, symphonic music, and operas are all but silent now, save for a few incidental pieces. Rarely have the serious works of contemporary geniuses more roundly flunked the test of time. Yet join these two forgotten names with an ampersand, and you get perhaps the most famous team in this history of the English-speaking stage, the beloved Gilbert and Sullivan. For more than a quarter of a century, they worked as closely together as any two artists ever did. They created 14 comic operas, which at one time or another have been produced in almost every country in the world. Theirs was a collaboration so successful that many people who could whistle all the airs from that infernal nonsense pinafore cannot say which man was the composer and which was the librettist. But behind their enormously popular collaborations, two hearts beating as two.
As a youngster, Sullivan's principal occupation was winning awards, scholarships, and recognition, an art he was to cultivate assiduously most of his life. By his late teens, he had mastered all of the orchestral instruments, as well as all of the social graces, and he had made gods of Mendelssohn, Schumann, and Schubert. He was received everywhere, made his entry into English musical society graciously, and was fast becoming recognized as the English Offenbach.
As a youngster, Gilbert's principal occupation was fighting, an art he was to cultivate most of his life. In his youth, he wrote burlesques and charades, he read omnivorously, devoted himself to fiction and dramatic authors, made gods of Dickens and Thackeray, but was fast becoming known as the English Aristophanes. If you please, Mr. Sullivan?
I do indeed, Mr. Gilbert. That our paths were to incline and join and then ultimately break apart again was beyond my imagination that first day we met. After all, how could it not have been when practically the first thing out of his mouth was?
I maintain that if a composer has a musical theme to express, he can express it as perfectly upon the simple tetrachord of Mercury, in which there are no diatonic intervals at all, as upon the much more complicated diapason, which embraces in its perfect consonance all the simple double-ended tetrachords.
I beg your pardon.
I say I maintain that if a composer has a musical theme to express, he can express it as perfectly upon the simple tetrachord of Mercury, in which there are
Well, the very thought of having to supply an answer directly influenced my decision not to do an operetta by Gilbert, which I was asked to do soon after that first meeting. After all, he was a peddler of the pedestrian, a writer of comic burlesques, in rhymes no less.
How quaint the ways of paradox that common sense she gaily...
Exactly, and I, a composer of music, even sacred music. I was on the verge of becoming, if you please will permit me this conceit, what Gounod was to France, what Verdi was to Italy, and what Wagner was to Germany.
Dear Mr. Sullivan, you have in you, I know, the mettle to write comic opera as no one else can write it in Europe or America.
My dear Mr. Gilbert, nobody in America writes opera.
Well, there, see? That whimsical makeup, along with your romantic disposition, make you a natural for anything theatrical.
But there are so many difficulties, not the least of which is that so few actors can sing. And of those who pretend to, they can be said to compass no more than 6 notes.
6 notes it is, then.
At best.
I have a marvelous idea for a libretto about a magic lozenge.
A lozenge?
Yes, it's a rather special kind. You see, it's magical. It has the effect of making anyone who swallows it become the thing that they pretend to be. The whole play takes place in a small village where a dispenser of the magic lozenge. But with your permission, I will send it to you.
Oh, but of course. My dear Mr. Gilbert, although I maintain the greatest admiration for you as a theatrical craftsman, I am unable to supply the music for such an undertaking.
Oh, I see.
Perhaps at another time.
Yes, perhaps.
Or another subject.
Well, yes, actually, I do have another. A play I tentatively call Festus, or the Gods Grown Old. The scene is the ruins of the Temple of the Gods atop Mount Olympus. Of course, when supported by the elegant music of Mr. Arthur Sullivan.
Supported by?
Poetic license.
Go on.
It would have every chance.
Sullivan and Gilbert. It's not that
Brilliant.
Shall we give it a go then?
We should.
We did. And it was a total disaster.
The piece floundered during rehearsals in this dingy, underlit theater. At one point, Sullivan instructed his singers he should like to think of themselves as singing grand opera at Covent Garden. using all the flamboyant gestures that Italian opera singers use, the result of which was an unfortunate action by the tenor, who on opening night, while carrying out Sullivan's instructions, fell over the footlights of the orchestra. I think we might take another look at the lozenge plot.
Dearest mother, I have been staying the past fortnight at the Duke of Coburg's castle with the great Swedish soprano, Christine Nilsson. The prince and princess are both very kind to me, and the Duke has offered me the order at Coburg. So I am afraid I swagger about a bit with a ribbon and a star.
Perhaps you know I spent my early years at the bar. Well, perhaps if we were to use that as a basis.
Oh, my dearest mother, I have been staying at the Grand Duke's and more with Alice and his daughter.
Surely the public wants another. So too the Queen and the gaiety. So too do I, and I'm sure you.
Oh, my dear Mr. Gilbert, the public does not, nor does the Queen, nor the gaiety, and certainly not I.
There's at least one who does. Richard Doyley Cart.
Cart was indeed an out-of-the-rut young man, and a most persuasive one in fact. Had it not been for this unique saint, this paradigm of probity, my collaboration with Gilbert would not have lasted through its first hour.
Doyley Cart was but 31. Sullivan 33, and I 39 when Doyley Cart brought us back together again. In the years following Thespis, Sullivan had moved steadily away from the theatre. His oratorios were now in the repertoire of every choral society. I had made so much money with my plays, I was under no financial temptation to rekindle the spark of comic opera. The scene of the rekindling, however, was the Royalty Theatre, Soho. Bills outside announced the French operetta La Pericole, which was fun enough and should be popular. It was very French. It was by Offenbach, but it was rather short as an evening's entertainment, and Doyley Cart felt what was necessary was something even shorter to fill out the bill, something very English and just as much fun as Offenbach. As luck would have it, I made a fortuitous call upon the theatre and found myself facing an alert little fellow whom I knew to be shrewd. Besides managing sopranos, he handled Oscar Wilde. He expressed his needs, and I told him I could have a libretto immediately. It was already written. 7 years earlier, I had published a ballad called Trial by Jury. I fished it out of my pocket and waited. Cart loved it, but he insisted that Sullivan was the only English composer who could stand beside Offenbach. Well, I went straight to Sullivan's room. Well, you are certainly the only English composer who could stand beside Offenbach.
Gilbert came to my rooms and over a blazing fire read Trial by Jury to me, but in a perturbed sort of way, much in the manner of a man who was considerably disappointed with what he had written. He came to the final page and he closed up the manuscript violently, apparently unconscious of the fact that he had achieved his purpose, inasmuch that I was screaming with laughter the entire time. The words and the music were all written, and the rehearsals completed within the space of 3 weeks' time. It was incredible.
My God, Sullivan, have you seen the advance announcements? A new musical entertainment composed expressly for this theatre by Mr. Arthur Sullivan. It never mentions my name.
Well, after all,
nothing, it was my idea.
So it was. Frankly, there were some people shocked by my appearance at the Royalty Theatre. The Musical Standard wrote, "It is to be gathered from the public print that the versatile composer of the line of the world has lately turned his attentions to musical burlesque." Musical burlesque? Didn't they know it was all your idea?
Well, of course, it was my idea.
When I, with friends, was called to the bar, I'd an appetite fresh and hearty. But I, as many young magisters are, any impecunious party. I'd a swallowtail coat of a beautiful blue, and a brief which I bought of a booby. A couple of shirts, and a collar or two, and a ring successions. You'll soon get used to her looks, said he, and a very nice girl you'll find her. Oh, she may very well pass for 43 in the dusk with the light behind her. She may very well pass for 43 in the dusk with the light behind her. Your music is absolutely wonderful, Sullivan. Perhaps if you played it a trifle softer, the audience might hear a bit more of the lyric.
Do you really think that's all necessary?
Oh, I do, yes.
It's a bit complicated though, isn't it?
Complicated?
And the forced rhymes and all.
Actually, I rather thought them clever.
Oh, I see.
The rich attorney was as good as his word, and the briefs came trooping gaily. And every day my voice was heard at the sessions or ancient bailey. Those thieves who could my fees afford relied on my orations. And many a burglar I've restored to his friends and his relations. And many a burglar he's restored to his friends and his relations. At length I became rich as the gurneys, in incubus then I thought her. So I threw over that rich attorney's elderly ugly daughter. The rich attorney, my character high, tried vainly to discourage.
No.
Yes. And now, if you please, I'm ready to try this breach of promise of marriage. And now, if you please, he's ready to try this breach of promise of marriage. For now I'm a judge and a good judge too. Yes, now I'm a judge and a good judge too. Oh, my law be fudged, yet I'll never, never budge. But I live and die a judge and a good judge.
The show was an immediate, unqualified success. It drew all of London. Not so much that we were becoming household names, but that he was becoming so well known. He was fast becoming the most forceful figure in English music.
Dearest mother, I'm afraid my kidneys are at it again. Tonight I did not hear the applause and I did not see the audience. My eyes were filled with tears of agony.
The tide of success had lifted him high. It now seemed to race and bear him with it. The clamor for his work increased. The more he urged his body against fatigue, the greater the response in melody his brain seemed able to yield. And I was becoming increasingly aware that my own fortunes were inextricably linked to his flights of fancy and genius.
Cambridge University has offered me an honorary degree as Doctor of Music.
Perhaps we should think of continuing our collaboration. I have again been working on the lozenge plot.
A most intriguing letter has just arrived. I am the writer of a little book for children entitled Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which has proved so unexpectedly popular that the idea of dramatizing it has several times been spoken. If this shall ever be done, I shall want it done in the very best possible way, and one feature I should like is good music. So I thought, knowing your charming propositions, that we may enter into an arrangement. In haste, yours faithfully, C.C. Dodson, Lewis Carroll. I must say the idea is most intriguing.
All right. A story of an entire English village taking doses of love potion.
Sullivan and Dodson. Or is it Sullivan and Carroll? Dearest Mom, I have been staying here in Marlborough, and the Prince and Princess are both very kind to me. And Mrs. Ronald sang the Lost Chord splendidly.
My God, man, can't you spend any more than 2 days at a time and work?
Oh my God, man, can't you see that social success is my business?
That in all this time I thought it was music.
Well, I must admit I am becoming somewhat of a court musician, and as such, I have obligations. You, my dear partner, to continue to work at it, thus may ascend to the part of court jester.
Actually, that's all I'm doing, Sullivan, working at it in earnest.
Rumor has it that you actually stopped long enough last week to dine with friends. Well, obviously, a vicious rumor designed to impugn your otherwise impeccable character. Tell me it isn't so, Gilbert.
Of course it's so.
Oh, did it go well?
Admirably, not a mouthful over.
Come to think of it, I've never seen you stop long enough to eat. You really must come dine with us some evening.
With us?
Mrs. Ronalds and I.
Sullivan.
You must meet her, Gilbert. She's beautiful, ambitious, rich.
Married.
Yes. Well, if you're worried about your career with me, you needn't. We both of us have fortunate charm and discretion for a scamp.
But she's an American.
Nevertheless, she travels with the smartest people in England. Many of whom are becoming increasingly irritated at your continual jibes.
Are they so?
The nice people don't like it.
Don't worry, old fellow. The nice people don't go to the theater. My father was a laborer, in fact, but he was a writer in spirit. When I was barely old enough to understand the words, he would sit me on his lap in the evening after dinner in the parlor and read to me great words from great writers. Those words would roll from his lips as if he had tasted the honey in every one. When I was 9, he sent me to school at Ealing, where I won all of the awards for English, wrote plays for the boys, and was called the poet laureate of the school. In order to pay for this wonderful opportunity, Father took on extra work at night. It proved too much for him, and while I was off at school, his heart gave out. Ever since that time, I pursued one dream, to someday win knighthood. It's a foolish dream, perhaps, but it would mean so much to him. Perhaps someday, with your help, I should be able to repay him. So, if you agree, let us begin to work in all earnest on a new piece.
Well, I'm not at all sure that knighthood is the problem.
Knighthood gives you instant immortality.
I think immortality is overrated.
I want to be remembered when I'm gone.
Oh, my good friend, I don't wish to achieve immortality through my work. I wish to achieve it through not dying.
My friend, you sound like a man who's afraid of dying.
No, I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens.
Fame has the span of only a day, they say. But to live on in the hearts of the English people, that would be worth something. Sullivan, I'm extremely nervous about HMS Pinafore. In fact, I frequently rewrite till 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh, you playwrights are impossible.
Dramatists.
Perhaps you should take a rest on Pinafore. 3 weeks before rehearsal seems a bit late to be rewriting.
The piece is weak. I know it will be a failure. Perhaps if we had a magic wand.
No, I really don't think we need any rewriting. But I do think that Sir Joseph should wear a monocle.
loudly chants. And we are his sisters and his cousins and his aunts. And they are his sisters and his cousins and his aunts. His sisters and his cousins and his aunts. While at anchor here I ride, my bosom swells with pride, and I snap my fingers at the foeman's taunt. And so do his sisters and his cousins and his aunts. And so do his sisters and his cousins and his aunts. His sisters and his cousins and his aunts. But when the breezes blow, I generally go below and seek the seclusion that a cabin prompts. And so do his sisters and his cousins and his aunts. And so do his sisters and his cousins and his aunts. And so do his sisters and his cousins and his aunts. His sisters and his cousins who be reckoned of by dozens and his aunts. You've a remarkably fine crew, Captain Corcoran.
It is a fine crew indeed, Sir Joseph.
A British sailor is a splendid fellow, Captain Corcoran.
A splendid fellow indeed, Sir Joseph.
I hope you treat your crew kindly, Captain Corcoran.
Indeed, I hope so, Sir Joseph.
Never forget that they are the bullocks of England's greatness, Captain Corcoran.
And so I have always considered them.
No bullying, I trust, no strong language of any kind, eh?
No, never, Sir Joseph.
What, never?
Well, hardly ever. They are an excellent crew, and they do their work thoroughly without it.
Don't patronize them, Sir. Pray don't patronize them.
Certainly not, Sir Joseph.
That you are their captain is an accident of birth. I cannot permit these noble fellows to be patronized simply because an accident of birth has placed you above them and them below you.
I am the last person to insult a British sailor, Sir Joseph.
You are the last person who did, Captain Gordon.
Pinafore finally opened. A frothy trifle destined soon to subside into nothingness.
I have never seen anything as bad as Pinafore. Well, I believe it's been shipwrecked on that great reef known as the stiff upper lip.
Nonetheless, much to our surprise and the benefit of our pocketbooks, the audiences loved it. The phrase, "what, never?" well, hardly ever, was becoming the catchword of the English-speaking world.
You mean to tell me we're rich?
Close.
I can gamble again. Well, I went off to the casinos, and Gilbert went off to America to aid Doyleycart in forestalling the inevitable piracies that occurred in our work. And true to his most penurious instincts, he developed an elaborate list of code words for cabling back to London.
Approbation.
Have arrived safe.
Avalanche.
Produced Pinafore in a week.
Felicitation.
Share of profits last week, £300.
I am ill. I am very ill. I'm at the point of death. I've been stabbed in the arm. I've been shot in the leg. I have been shot and stabbed. I have been run over. I have been crushed.
A piece, a stunning success. This whole thing quite amused his wife, I'm sure.
Dear Sullivan, you won't believe what they are doing to Pinafore in this godforsaken land. Philadelphia has a Negro version, and Boston has a chorus consisting of 50 voices from various Catholic churches. The tunes are everywhere. 100,000 barrel organs have been constructed to play nothing else but your music.
I, the composer of the Lost Chord, friend of the Queen, a barrel organ writer?
Oh, but they play it so well.
Oh, please.
You really ought to come and see for yourself.
To America? Huh. America is, as Clemenceau says, the only nation in history that has miraculously gone from barbarianism to degeneration, without the usual interval of civilization.
The comic opera was made for America.
Oh, my good friend, if I owned New York and hell, I would rent out New York and live in hell.
But he did come. Seaworthy vessels of every size, shape, and color greeted his arrival, dressed with American and English flags, playing the songs of Pinafore on every deck.
Songs with no copyright.
Well, yes.
Those pirates had the unmitigated American gall to greet us, playing our songs, dressed in our costumes, making money from our show. Mr. Gilbert, are you at all surprised by the success of Pinafore?
Well, it is rather hard when one has for years been used to doing a rather serious work to find a frothy trifle like this one should so far exceed it. But we really had no idea it would be so popular, you know.
And in your own words, Mr. Gilbert, how would you say that the words and the music of the Gilbert and Sullivan operas are so closely wedded?
Well, we have been working harmoniously together now for the last 7 years, and during that time it has never once occurred that we have disagreed in the slightest way as to the way in which an idea should be carried out, be it either poetically or musically.
And Mr. Gilbert, did you expect the familiar quotations of Pinafore to become the popular catchphrases that they are here in the United States?
Never.
What? Never?
Well, very seldom.
The Americans really have no shame when it comes to piracy. A member of my orchestra was actually offered $100 if he would only supply the first violin part.
No one asked me for the words.
Really? Not one sentence?
For all of Sullivan's grousing, he seemed truly to enjoy your society. He confided to me that he found it very English in many ways. He went by horse carriage to polite parties and found New York, all in all, like an English provincial city.
Gilbert was not quite the social lion he was expected to be. Oh, of course, American hostesses fawned over him, but many learned to beware his thorns. "Oh, Mr. Gilbert," one woman said, "your friend Sullivan's music is just too delightful. It reminds me so much of dear Bob. What is Bob doing just now? Is he still composing?"
Well, no, madam. Just now, I believe dear Bob is decomposing.
Throughout New York, though, Gilbert was fast becoming recognized as the world's leading authority on Shakespeare.
Shakespeare was a great poet, I suppose, but I was as bored by The Tempest as I was by Julius Caesar and Richard III. I do consider myself something of an authority on dramatic form, and I have no hesitation in expressing a professional opinion that all of his works, all of his plays, should be kept off the boards. Although I'm hesitant to admit it in public, I consider myself as a dramatist now. Shakespeare's superior.
Incredible.
And admittedly, you are much more cultured than I am, dear Sullivan, but what do you make of this quotation? "I would as lief be thrust through a cricket hedge as cry pooh to a callow throstle."
Well, that's perfectly plain. A lover of feathered songsters, rather than disturb the warbler, prefer to go through a thorny hedge. But I'm not familiar with the quotation. In which play does it occur?
I wrote it just now. And bloody good Shakespeare it is, too.
Dearest mother, the old illness is back, dangling torches of pain, dragging myself from couch to table, the inspiration all but killed by the agony. And all the while, Gilbert rails on about a new opera, a new comic opera.
Dear Sullivan, I received your note yesterday and learned to my unbounded surprise that you are considering not writing any more comic opera. I must say I'm struck to the quick. In all of the pieces we have written together, I have invariably subordinated my views to your own. You have often expatiated to me and to others on the thorough good feeling with which we have worked for so many years. I am therefore absolutely at a loss to account for your decision.
Dearest friend, I have come to the end of my capability with the comic opera form. My tunes are in danger of becoming mere repetitions of my former pieces. My concerts and movements are bearing a very strong family resemblance. I have looked upon the words as being of such importance that I continually play down the music so that not one of them should be lost. This is most disheartening, for the music is never allowed to rise and speak for itself. I should like a chance for the music to intensify the emotional element of a situation. And if that situation be a tender or romantic one, that the words would be of similar character. Then there would be a feeling of reality about it that would give a fresh interest in writing and a fresh vitality to our joint work.
Dear Sullivan, your reflections upon the character of the libretti with which I have supplied you have caused me considerable pain. However, I cannot assume that you intended to gall and wound me when you wrote as you did. Let me then propose that we begin at once to work on a piece based on the notion that by means of a magic lozenge, a person would actually become the character they represented themselves to be. Thus, a younger woman, taking an older woman's part, would, by taking the lozenge, actually become an old woman for the time, and so forth.
One, no, because it is getting back to the elements of topsy-turvydom and unreality I'd hoped we were now done with. Two, no, because it bears a strong resemblance to our previous works. Three, no, because any element of tenderness or romance which you may introduce must by its surroundings be artificial, and this reacts on me most disadvantageously. I cannot do any more of that type of work. Four, no, because I don't...
All right, in the spirit of reconciliation, I'm willing to compromise.
Five, no, because I don't...
Another story.
Six, no.
A plot drawn from my own experience. When at the age of 2, while in the care of my nurse, I was kidnapped and held for ransom by a band of brigands.
Gilbert, you never told me that.
The story of the pirates, a melodramatic burlesque, based on a series of paradoxes.
Paradoxes?
The most ingenious paradox, Frederick, a young man, has been apprenticed to a band of pirates by a mistake of his nurse. His parents told her to apprentice him to a pilot, but being hard of hearing, she thought they said pirate. Take one look at this one song, and then decide.
Gilbert, you are quite mad.
When you had left our pirate fold, we tried to lift our spirits' fate according to our customs, all with quip and quibble quaint. But all in vain the quips we heard, we lay and sobbed upon the rocks. Until to somebody occurred a startling paradox.
A paradox.
A paradox, a most ingenious paradox. With quips and quibbles heard in thoughts, but not to beat this paradox.
A paradox, a paradox, a most ingenious paradox. This paradox.
We view your taste for curious quips, for cranks and contradictions queer, and with a laughter on our lips we wished you there to hear. We said if we could tell it him, how Frederick would the joke enjoy, and so we missed both night and limb to tell it to our boy.
A paradox.
Paradox, a most ingenious paradox, we quips and quibbles heard in thoughts, but not to beat this paradox.
A paradox, a paradox, a most ingenious paradox. This paradox.
For some ridiculous reason to which, however, I have no desire to be disloyal, some person in authority, I don't know who, very likely the astronomer royal, has decreed that although for such a beastly month as February, 28 days are as a rule plenty, 1 year in every 4, his days shall be reckoned as 9 and 20. Through some singular coincidence, I shouldn't be surprised if they were owing to the agency of an ill-natured fairy. You are the victim of this clumsy arrangement, having been born in leap year on the 29th day of February. And so, by a simple arithmetical process, you will easily discover that though you've lived 21 years, yet if we go by birthday, you're only 5 and a little bit older.
Dear me, let's see. Yes, yes, with yours my figures do agree. How quaint the ways of paradox. At common sense she gaily mocks. Though counting in the usual way is 21 I've been alive. Though reckoning by my natal day, though reckoning by my natal day, I am a little boy of 5. A paradox, a paradox, a most ingenious paradox. This paradox, this paradox, that most ingenious Brilliant! Gilbert, you are a beguiler of the highest order. Oh, how I wish I could resist his charms.
Now that Sullivan had grown so fond of New York, it was decided to produce the Pirates of Penzance here. While we were rehearsing, it came to our notice that if we were to open the show in America before doing so in England, British copyright would become null and void. So to avoid this, it was decided to give one performance in England, but one that would in no way upset the American premiere. A company touring Pinafore in the provinces was rapidly rehearsed, very rapidly indeed, as the music arrived only just in time for the company to take a quick look at it before going on to perform it. Dressed in their Pinafore uniforms with colored handkerchiefs around their heads and their parts in their hands, the company performed the Pirates of Penzance in England only a few hours before the American premiere. And the British copyright was safe.
Dearest mother, the whole opera was finished very quickly and brought out the night before last with a success unparalleled in New York. Oh, the chorus were charming people. Well, all except for one tenor who was an idiot. He nearly upset the piece the opening night, for he didn't know his lyrics, which is understandable, but he forgot his music, and that is intolerable. I believe I deserve a vacation, so I'm going to Nice.
Dear Sully, I hope Nice is nice. Looking about me back here in London, I cannot help but notice the affected gentlemen and languid ladies of the fashionable salons. The aesthetic craze has moved to the extreme. I was at a party the other night and saw a youth carrying throughout the whole of the evening in melancholy silence a long, white lily, with whose droop he was evidently doing his best to bring his own figure into imitation. Am I alone and unobserved? I am. Then let me own I'm an aesthetic sham. If you're anxious to shine in the high aesthetic line as a man of culture rare, you must get a hold of the germs of the transcendental terms and plant them everywhere. You must lie upon the daisies and discourse in novel phrases on your complicated state of mind. The meaning doesn't matter, it is only idle chatter of the transcendental mind. Everyone will say, as you walk your mystic way, if this young man expresses himself in terms too deep for me, my heart's a most particularly deep young man, this deep young man must be. Be eloquent in praise of the very dull days which have long since passed away, and convince him in the path that the rain-hood green arrows culture forms stay. Of course he will pooh-pooh whatever's fresh and new and declare it's crude and mean, for art stopped short in the cultivated court of the Empress Josephine. And everyone will say, as you walk your flowery way, if that's not good enough for him, then it's good enough for me. I'm not a very cultivated kind of youth, this kind of youth must be. Then a sentimental passion of a vegetable fashion must excite your languid spleen. An attachment for a plate, for a bash for your potato, or a not too French bean. Though the Philistines may jostle, you will rank as an apostle in the high aesthetic band. If you walked on Piccadilly with a puppet or a lily in your medieval hand. And everyone will say, as you walk your flowery way, if he's content with a vegetable love, which would certainly not suit me, why should the most particularly the young man, this poor young man must be.
It's a fascinating song, Gilbert, but I don't care. I am enjoying Venice immensely, well, except that the streets are flooded. Please advise.
I said,
Oh, don't.
I did.
My God, these irreverent jibes of the clerical order.
Irreverent.
And irrelevant.
Hardly.
I think perhaps I should go to Monte Carlo for a while. It's farther from London than Venice. If I decide to work on this thing, I'll send you the music.
Sullivan, what have you done to my Lady Jane? I have set down words proper to her character. Don't wait too long for me, Reginald. My charms are ripe, Reginald, and already they are decaying. Fading is the taper waist, shapeless grows the shapely limb, and although severely laced, spreading is the figure trim. And I have set down stage directions intending the lady should saw away at a violoncello as if it were a block of wood. Instead, you have seen fit
I have seen fit to soften the blow. Yes, I did give her a compassionate melody. I find it most difficult to ridicule the older ladies of our country.
Yeah.
The fact is, my mother belongs to that group. And every time I make one of your cuts at that charming bunch, I feel a stab in my heart for her. I think perhaps I should go to Bombay.
Distance notwithstanding, we opened the patients to a circus atmosphere, and I believe Doyle Cart went quite mad for the occasion. He decided to use it as an excuse to introduce his electric lamps. Much of the audience were in trepidation of electricity, thinking that it's always fatal. Cart came on carrying an electric lamp in his hand, and a hush fell upon the theater. He then gave a sort of polytechnic lecture as to the safety of electricity. He then took a piece of muslin and draped it over the lamp like a magician.
Always the showman.
Yes. Then he took a hammer and he smashed the lamp, which naturally went out, but when he held up the muslin unburnt, the effect on the audience was incredible. He had to bow himself off amidst enthusiastic applause, took 2 curtain calls. Then the opera followed the magic act.
Gilbert and I were now enjoying an income of over £10,000 a year. Twice as much as Prime Minister Gladstone.
While Sullivan was busy entertaining royalty at the races and the casinos, I was busy doing something constructive, literally. The new mansion for my wife Kitten and myself at Harrington Gardens should be finished soon. I shall have installed that new toy known as the telephone. They're fixing one backstage at the theater so that I shall be able to hear every performance from my study. Shall I order you one?
Dear William, I think I shall hold off on the telephone for the present. I'm not sure when I shall return to London. The Grand Duke and I had a lovely banquet with the King of Denmark. Then we sailed to meet the Tsar. From Russia we sailed to Kiev, where I met the young prince, William II. I had hoped to share some of my more serious music with him. But as he greeted me, he burst out with,
"The polished at the handle of the big front door."
Yes, everyone found it quite amusing. Gilbert's Princess Ida is superb. It's a veritable gem. It has life and color, and you have phrased it all so beautifully. Why don't you take it around to Offenbach?
Who?
It's rather a self-portrait, though, isn't it?
Well,
I'm sure I'm no aesthetic, I'm as pleasant as can be. You'll always find me ready with a crushing repartee. I've an irritating chuckle, I've a fascinating stare. I've an entertaining snigger, I've a fascinating leer.
actually, you know, I did mean that for myself. I felt it my duty to live up to my reputation.
To compliments inflated, I'm a withering reply. And vanity, I always do my best to mortify. But although I try to make myself as pleasant as I can, yet everybody says I am a disagreeable man.
All great art is autobiographical to a degree.
And I can't think why.
I can't think why. I can't think why.
Sullivan Cart has just shown me a rather distressed letter from you, indicating a dissatisfaction with your own work. You are certainly without parallel in all of Europe. Your vein of melody seems inexhaustible, and your constructive skill can hold with any contemporary composer. In every way, our joint work upholds your reputation as the most spontaneous, clever, fertile, and scholarly composer this country has ever seen.
Comic, 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 comic! The thing which rankles me most of all is that my music says nothing through.
But it says so magnificent.
I wrote to Bret Harte, the famous American short story writer, and I asked him to join me in a partnership. A story like The Luck of Roaring Camp might have been just the thing to break me from comic opera. But
when Cart offered us a contract for 5 years to write a series of comic pieces,
I signed.
yes. So if he was so dissatisfied, why would he sign the contract?
Dear Cart, please find and enclose the signed copy of the contract. I have signed it 1, because I feel I could not resist the comedy for long. 2, because you are my close friend. And 3, because the fee I would receive for conducting the 1883 Leeds Festival would last me 1 night in Monte Carlo. Gilbert should go immediately to the casinos and thank the dealers heartily, for they are keeping Gilbert and Sullivan alive.
Dear Sullivan, so pleased to hear of your success at the performance at Leeds. I, however, continue to labor away at this nonsensical piece of trash, Iolanthe, eagerly awaiting your return to the lowly confines of this dungeon known as comic opera.
Gilbert's insulting tone notwithstanding, I did return, and I finished it. But on the first night of full rehearsal, I collapsed.
You swooned a bit.
My head hit the floor.
The stage floor was wet and slippery.
I passed out cold. I can't believe you're trying to cover this up.
You make it sound as if you were on your deathbed and you crawled through the snow to make rehearsals.
Dear Cart, I'm sorry you couldn't be here for the opening. Iolanthe was a brilliant success. Yes, I did conduct. But earlier in the evening it seemed hopeless. At 7 o'clock I received another hypodermic injection to ease the pain, and a cup of black coffee to keep me awake. I managed to get up and dress then. It was a fine performance. Gilbert is indeed a great playwright.
Dramatist. But the audience response was fair, just fair.
Gilbert, you managed to find a little bad in the best of things. Stop trying to go through life with morose-colored glasses. It was phenomenal. If I had not grown faint after the performance, they would have called us out for 15 more curtain calls.
What do they know about opera?
But in fact, the takings were rather slim. Audiences were dropping off by the 9th month. It was a Gilbertian failure. Of course, he only saw fit to blame me.
Sullivan, some of it plays as grand operatic aria. I feel my words becoming subordinated to your music. Now, I realize it's a little late to argue about Iolanthe, but as to our next piece...
Gilbert's constant harping notwithstanding, I couldn't help thinking about Queen Victoria's remarks. After a performance at Albert Hall, she sent for me. At last I have heard the brilliant Mr. Sullivan, she said. You really should write a grand opera. You would do it so well. Her Majesty was most gracious.
Yes, this came as no surprise to me. I knew in the wee hours some mischievous puck was whispering stories of the
Magical kingdom of grand opera.
into the overly large ears of my collaborator.
William, I have a desire to do a larger work on a larger musical scale.
Larger?
But of course I should like to do it with you.
Of course.
But at the same time, the music must occupy a more important position than in our previous works.
Just what does that mean?
Oh, simply that I wish to get rid of the strongly marked rhythms and rhymed couplets.
And replace them with...
Words that would give a feeling of developing musical effects.
What do you call my lyrics?
And I should also like a voice in the musical construction of the libretto.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Sullivan, listen, I understand and sympathize with your desire to write grand opera, I really do. To speak from my own selfish point of view, however, such an exercise would afford me no chance of doing what I do best. The librettist of a grand opera is always circumvented by the composer. Anybody can write a good libretto for a grand opera. Personally, I should be lost.
Gilbert, you say that in a serious piece, you must more or less sacrifice yourself. And I say this is exactly what I have been doing in all of our joint efforts. And what is more, must continue to do if comic opera is to be successful. Now, is there any modus vivendi for which my requirements can be met?
Your comments fill me with amazement and regret. If you are really under the astounding misapprehension you have been effacing yourself for the last 9 years, there is certainly no modus vivendi that would be satisfactory to the both of us. You are as adept in your profession as I am in mine. If we meet, it must be as master and master, not as master and servant.
Servant indeed. Dear Clark, I ought to inform you at once it is impossible for me to do another piece of the character of those already composed by Gilbert and myself.
Dear Mr. Sullivan, I have just received a disturbing piece of news from Mr. Carr. I am sure he has jumbled it up in that disorganized way of his. He insists that you insist that you will not write another comic opera with me. This is a chunk of absurdity only Carr could bite off. Surely you know we have a contract that extends for another 4 years, and if we were to default, we would be liable to Carr for any losses.
Dear Mr. William S. Gilbert, perhaps I have not made myself as clear as I would have liked. I will not do any more comic opera along the lines that we have composed. I am resolved to devote myself now to more earnest work. There is no vitality in comic opera for which my interests can be held. Yours faithfully, A. S. Sullivan.
Dear William,
And Arthur,
I plead with you.
this petty quarrel of yours must be relegated to the limbo of forgotten things before it leaves its scars.
That two minds of such genius should argue so is reprehensible. You are in danger of destroying the greatest partnership in the history of the English-speaking stage. I remain faithfully yours, Richard Doyle Cart. The time had come at last. I sat down late one night in my studio, and I wrote the most difficult letter of my life.
A very special letter arrived one day, quite unexpected. A letter I had dreamed of all of my life.
Dear Arthur,
I have the pleasure to inform you
time has at last arrived to put an end to our collaboration.
that I am permitted by Her Majesty,
It is clear that we can no longer work together.
in recognition of your distinguished talents as a composer,
This hurts me more deeply than I can express.
to offer you the honor of knighthood.
In accordance, therefore, I propose to write a letter to Cart giving him notice that, regardless of contract, he is not to produce or perform any of our united work after this Christmas. In point of fact, after that time, our united work will be heard in public. No more. I trust you agree.
I hope it may be agreeable to you to accept this proposal.
I remain faithfully yours, W.S. Gilbert.
I remain faithfully yours, Prime Minister W.E. Gladstone.
I agree.
Seated one day at the organ, I was weary and ill at ease, and my fingers wandered idly over the noisy keys. I know not what they were playing, or what I was dreaming then, but I struck one chord of music like the sound of a great amen, like the sound of a great amen. It linked all perplexing meanings into one perfect peace, and trembled away into silence, as if it were loath to cease. I have sought, but I seek it vainly, that one lost chord divine, that came from the soul of the organ, and entered into mine. It may be that blessed bright angel, speaking that chord again. It may be that only in heaven I shall hear that grand amen. It may be that this bright angel will speak in that chord again. It may be that only in heaven I shall hear that grand amen. The first rule in music is the first rule in life. See to everything yourself. So I must admit the opportunity to compose serious music again on my own came as a most welcomed challenge.
Without Sullivan's restraints of decorum, I felt more free than ever to pursue, to perhaps a fresher vision of the ironies and foibles of our society. I jibe and joke, and quip and crank, for lowly folk and men of rank. I ply my craft and know no fear, but aim my shaft at prince or peer. I don't suppose you do have to be a knight to leave a legacy of pure and lasting laughter. I should very much like to bequeath an inheritance of music as well as of mirth, of thought and criticism as well as of whim and fantasy.
I wrote a symphony, several overtures, a handful of cantatas, a variety of oratorios, a dozen anthems, and 2 Te Deums. Meanwhile, my erstwhile collaborator was still writing that which he always wrote.
One day, I wrote to Cart in a state of tremulous excitement. I have a wonderful idea for a wonderful new play, with a wonderful plot and wonderful lyrics. Now, I wonder if you can think of a composer to match, someone new and eager, someone who loves as much as I do the art of comic opera, for art it most surely is, someone wonderful. Cart wrote wondering how many such creatures as this could exist. I wrote saying I only needed one. He wrote saying there was only one man who fit my description. I wrote to him asking who. He wrote saying,
No. Can't you see it is but a ruse, and a thinly disguised one at that? He only has one new idea. He's only ever had but one new idea. I can promise you this wonderful new play.
I can promise you it is not about a magic closet.
I will not now, nor will I ever do a play.
About Japan.
Do you suppose he said Japan? I wrote to Cart. Kishite. That's Japanese for never.
Cart wrote saying he had a composer who spoke some Japanese.
Cart wrote asking me to at least meet with him.
I wrote to Cart. Meet with who?
My God, man, why don't you meet with him, he
I
said.
said, meet with who?
Gilbert?
Sullivan?
Never.
What never?
Out of the question.
Impossible.
Dear Cart, please send this to Gilbert. It is a doggerel verse of the worst kind. In fact, it's the most doggerel thing I think I could make up. Apparently the only thing he seems to understand. I have a nagging, unctuous notion. 'Tis a silly, captious potion. If that is so, then I say no. 'Tis Gilbertian self-devotion.
Cart, tell his knightship he is far too famous for one so lowly as me.
Cart, would you please tell him that despite his preconsiderations, the hardest thing about success is that you have to continue being a success.
Cart, tell him he sounds like a man who sits on a stove and then complains that his backside is burning.
Cart, would you please tell him that success is a journey, not a destination?
Cart, tell him poppycock.
Cart, would you please tell him I wish only a plague on notoriety? I hardly go shopping anymore without a convoy, and I am stared at wherever I go like an idiot member of a royal family, or an animal in the zoo.
Cart, tell him to be glad to do his shopping for him, as I have no such problem.
To show you just how bad it had become, the other day I was strolling down the street, and I came across an organ grinder. He was grinding out the overture to the Pirates of Penzance. Well, I couldn't help stopping and remarking he was playing it a bit too slowly. But he immediately recognized me and tipped his hat and said, "Oh, thank you, Sir Arthur. Thank you, Sir Arthur." Well, the next day I went strolling down that same street, came across the same organ grinder grinding out the same overture, but this time with the correct tempo. Behind this man was a very large sign. It read, "Pupil of Sir Arthur Sullivan."
Cart, tell him to fit that.
Cart, please tell him although I've been knighted, and although I mix in the first circles with princes, ambassadors, and ministers, I myself do not know how I got here, for I have never pushed myself forward. But this kind of society is most necessary for me. It teaches one good taste.
Oh, Cart, save me from the indignities of this composer. Why is the upper class so stodgy, so utterly without a sense of humor?
Dear Cart, I have decided at the request of the great poet Alfred Lord Tennyson to compose the incidental music to the Foresters. Although I must admit I find the title colorless. I've implored Tennyson to change it, but the aging poet, unyielding as ever in his opinions, sticks to his guns. Doesn't he know that collaboration is the art of compromise?
Cart, although it galls me to admit it, you are as usual right. There is only one man for my opera Japanisme, but the rift, I'm afraid, is too great. We must compromise.
Dear Cart, I've gone to Monte Carlo to work on the Foresters. Here I have received word of Mother's death. I'm afraid it's upset me dreadfully. The The blow was hit me with a shattering force. It is only now I realize how important was the part she played in my whole existence. I'm afraid I've become a very sick man myself. Last Saturday I was seized with illness and put to bed, pain kept in check by morphia injections. I received clippings from England saying that I was dying. The Queen herself even called for news of me. Letters and telegrams come in unending numbers. This is all very heartening, but I'm afraid I cannot live forever on morphia. And the doctors are of the firm opinion that the pain will not allow me to live without it. I'm in desperate straits, Cart, for something to lift my spirits. Something more diverting than morphia or Tennyson.
Just finished the song from Japanese operetta. Coco is trying to decide who to put on his execution list in case he ever has to act. Let me know what you think of it.
As someday it may happen that a victim must be found, I've got a little list. Got a little list of society offenders who might well be underground and who never would be missed, who never would be missed. There's the pestilential nuisances who write their autographs, or people who have flabby hands and irritating laughs, or children who are up and dates and fully with a flat, or persons all shaking hands and hands with you like that. And all the nuisance who once wanting take-out-takes insist. They know they won't be missed, well they know they won't be missed.
Serenader and the others of his race, and the piano organist, I've got him on the list. All people who eat peppermint and puffing in your face, they'd none of them be missed, they'd none of them be missed. And the idiot who praises with enthusiastic tone all centuries were pissed, and every countryman his own. And the lady from the provinces who dresses like a guy and doesn't think she dances but would rather like to try. And that singular anomaly, the lady not missed, I don't think she'd be missed, I'm sure she'll not be missed.
He's got her on the list. I'm sure she'll not be missed.
Gilbert, do you have to insult everyone?
Yes, that's what satire is.
What have you got against lady novelists?
Nothing, I simply call them a singular anomaly.
That's not an insult?
No, it's the truth.
Don't tell the Brontes.
In case you've forgotten, old friend, I write the lyrics, I'm the poet.
Oh, my good-intentioned but naive old man. You have no more right to the title of poet than a maker of mousetraps has to that of engineer.
Sullivan, don't you ever get tired of having yourself around?
They always travel in the best circles. How about this? And that singular anomaly, the clever dramatist.
Clever dramatist?
No, it's much too absurd. And that singular anomaly, that girl who's not been kissed.
There's that drama critic Bernard, who just now is rather right. And the classical composer, I've got him on the list.
All funny fellows, comic men, and clowns of private life. They've none of them been kissed. They've none of them been kissed.
And the prodigic statesmen of a compromising kind.
Such as whatchamacallit.
And Thingamon.
And likewise. Oh, never mind. And what's his name?
And also, you know, the task of filling up with legs and rather into you.
But it really doesn't matter who you put upon the list. Oh, they've none of them been missed. They've none of them been missed.
You put them on the list. You may put them on the list. But none of them be missed. Then none of them be missed.
Opening night went beautifully.
Tolerably.
The reviews were raves.
Generally favorable, yeah.
Outright raves. If music and sweet poetry agree, as they must, needs the sister and the brother, then must the bond be great twixt thee and me. For thou lovest the one, and I the other.
That's awfully good, Sullivan. I didn't know you had it in you.
Oh, I found it rather easy to write.
Perhaps I should send it to you.
Perhaps not.
You're right, I have no ear for music. I have a fairly accurate ear for rhythm, but no ear for a tune.
Yes, I know. I remember once I saw you take off your hat when the band played Rule Britannia, under the impression they were playing God Save the Queen.
The people around me were talking loud, that's all.
Gilbert, I'm becoming far too old for this nonsense.
It isn't nonsense, Sullivan.
Well, we were back together. I wasn't at all sure it was going to be the same. I knew to preserve that fragile fabric of reconciliation that now existed between us, it would be best for both of us if I were to leave. So I decided to sail to the most remote part of the world I could think of, California.
Meanwhile, those Boston American pirates were at it again, trying to steal the cargo in the U.S. Carter resolved to send the company to America very privately on the Cunard line, and meanwhile had a Paris agent buy up every Japanese customer on the continent, damn the expense, and they slipped out of England at the stroke of midnight.
The other night at a party in San Francisco, 4 string players from a local orchestra decided to surprise me with one of my quartets. They'd been working on it for a month. Well, they sat me in this very large chair and everyone gathered around to listen. Well, the first movement was about all that I could stand to listen to. So I gave a very polite, but sickly smile and proceeded to leave the room. Now, the first violin player ran after me and said, "Oh, Sir Arthur, how was the performance? Was the tempo all right?" And I very politely answered him, "Oh yes, the tempos were all very good. I think I liked yours the best." I'll be home soon and we can get to work on Bloody Gore.
Bloody Gore. It's not Bloody Gore, it's Ruddy Gore.
Oh, same thing.
Is it? I suppose then you will think if I say I admire your ruddy countenance, it's the same thing as if I said I like your bloody cheek. But it isn't, and I don't.
As you wish. Well, Ruddy Gore did open to a tremendous
Silence.
silence would have been a relief if only we had a better time. Perhaps we should take the wild of Ruddy Gore and make it an I.
I'm tired of arguing.
More trouble came from Paris. The newspapers announced that the Parlez-vous song was an insult to the French Navy and the nation. I must admit, I at times find the battle with the press to be a most hopeless and uphill fight.
That Sullivan could find the press unkind to him is beyond my comprehension. The press and the public have lathed me, scathed me, sheared me, soaked me, boiled me, chewed me, and left me out of the cold. The dramatic author is in the position of caterer, who has to serve up one dish to which all members of every class of society are invited to come or take.
Gilbert, you take the critics far too seriously. Anyone who can fill out a laundry slip calls himself a writer. Those who cannot fill out a laundry slip call themselves critics.
Yes, listen to this. The Globe critic takes exception to my use of the word coyfully. He says, "When cannot be filled coy?" Well, that is certainly true, but is it a conclusive argument against the use of the word? We use the word manfully, though one cannot be full of man. We use the word bashfully, though I don't think one can be full of bash.
Gilbert?
All right, you understand my meaning.
Perfectly.
One cannot be full of perfect.
Certainly.
No one can have a higher opinion of the Globe critic than I have. And I think he's a dirty little beast.
I'll say one thing for you, Gilbert. You're certainly no hypocrite. You always say what you mean, and you usually mean something nasty.
See here now, when I was quite a young fellow, I realized I had a choice between honest arrogance and hypocritical humility. I've chosen the arrogance, and I've seen no reason to change.
If you weren't such a genius, you'd be the most ridiculous man in England.
Thank you.
Wasn't meant as a compliment.
Still, among the reddest right now, I am the best. I don't say it from vanity, it's just that the others are so bad.
Well, I must admit, you certainly have achieved the status as England's greatest comic playwright.
Dramatist.
Suit yourself.
Sullivan, when you call me a playwright, you suggest my work is analogous to that of a wheelwright or a shipwright as regards some mechanical process by which our results are attained. Don't you know there's a perfectly usable word, dramatist, but it's seldom applied till we are dead. Then we become dramatists as oxen and sheep become beef and mutton. You are never referred to as a music writer. You never hear of a poem writer or a picture writer or a novel writer. So please call me, refer to me as a dramatist, Sir Arthur.
As you wish, Mr. Gilbert. It's becoming increasingly apparent to me that the more time we spend together, the more we argue. And I, for one, consider an argument to be the worst sort of conversation. I was becoming very weary of our uneasy truce, so I decided to give it a rest. I went to the south of France.
With Sullivan cantering about Europe and pontificating on serious music at the slightest suggestion of invitation, it's an amazement that our next work, The Yeoman of the Guard, ever reached fruition at all.
Dear Gilbert, I am dying.
Truly.
The old kidney trouble has got me on the rack again, I should say.
Bloody fine, I should say.
Every time I sit down to work, a fresh attack of shivering sweeps over me.
We have a contract, you know. We've tried to break it before.
I should so like to see the turn of the century. I have so much work to do.
Work? What is work? A false leash on the devil is all.
Gilbert, please. This is my death.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. Go on.
I lay in bed, a wan figure caressed by the icy figures of death.
Oh, horrible.
Yes, I know. The pain is...
No, I meant the line. You were never a writer.
Gilbert, will you please leave me to my own descriptions? I've been critiqued enough in my life. Let my death go unanswered.
As you wish.
Mrs. Ronalds was called over from England, and I gave her instructions for what should happen after my demise. I have planned my affairs with the care and detail of a Wagnerian opera.
I waited and waited, no word. Finally, a telegram from Mrs. Ronalds. Apparently, a fresh paroxysm ensued, which those around him thought to be his last. Then she rushed him to a hot bath, and actually saved his life.
Temporarily.
I visited him in his rooms. Quite a place it was. In the entrance hall, mysterious Arabian lamps gave off an eerie light through a lovely screen of Cairo woodwork.
I have just recovered from the icy figures of death, and you describe my rooms?
The doors were artistically draped with Persian and Greek hangings, and nestling between the spreading leaves of rare palms.
I am still quite ill.
Rare palms. They were lovely divans upon which oriental silks of great price and value were carelessly thrown.
Gilbert!
And there lay Sullivan.
What do you mean, carelessly thrown?
Sullivan had quite enough of your theatrics.
Theatrics?
Sullivan, you are not only encroaching upon my time, you are trespassing on eternity.
Gilbert, why is it when there's nothing more to be said, you're still saying it?
You know, you lack only a few more obnoxious qualities to be perfect.
That's not clever.
Wasn't meant to be.
Well, just keep on talking so I know you're not thinking.
Sullivan, if I've said anything to upset you, I've tried my best.
You were right, it was now. It was the turn of the century and the spell of Victorianism seemed to be broken. There was a widespread finality to it, a sudden collapse. William Morris, Gladstone, Robert Louis Stevenson, Oscar Wilde, and Lewis Carroll had all died within the last few years, and with them the gaslight and the horse cab. The motor car was coming, and jazz, and a man named Noel Coward was bringing a new species of theatrical wit.
Virtually the only time we saw each other now was when we took bows at Carter's insistence at the revival of one or another of our old operas. My friend and I have built a wall between us. Think why. The stones of their laid in scorn, and plastered high with pride.
He has always been haunted so by the unrelenting specter of knighthood. He is a man more driven by his needs than any man I believe I've ever met. He is at once his tormentor and his great benefactor. But I'm afraid we were at that point in our lives when neither of us could choose our dreams as vigorously as in younger days.
We were once again going our own ways, traveling in our own circles, reliving our own wonderful memories.
With a moment, prithee stay.
I'm very well acquainted to it matters mathematical. I understand equations both the simple and quadratical. About binomial theorem, I'm teeming with a lot of news. A lot of news? Oh dear me. A lot of news. A lot of news. A lot of news. Oh my goodness. Aha! With many several things about the square, I put a news. Differential calculus. I know the scientific names of beings under calculus, and short and that is vegetable, animal, and mineral. I am the very model of a quantitative general. I know arithmetic, history, king authors, and paradox. I answer acrostics, I have pretty tales for paradox. I quote inherent giants for the crimes of Heliogabalus. In comics, I can plot peculiarities, parameters. I can tell in Prometheus and Jared down to Normandies. I know the cloaking chorus of the frogs and Aristophanes, but I can hum a fugue of which I heard the music dinner for. Dinner for. Dinner for. What am I going to do? Dinner for. Dinner for. Oh boy. Pinafore. Oh, thank you. Then whistle all the airs and then infernal nonsense. Pinafore. And adventure is a reaping what out of the beginning of the century. Still in that is vegetable, animal, and mineral. I am the very model of a modern vegetable.
joyous and bright, and he bubbles with wit and good humor. So thinking, so terse, though he throws it in mercy, though people forgive his transgression, there are one or two rules that all family fools must observe if they love their profession. There are one or two rules, how a dozen may be, that all family fools of whatever degree must observe if they love their profession. If you wish to succeed as a jester, you need to consider each person's auricular. What is all right for me would quite scandal, I say, for seeing so very particular. And D may be dull, and E's very thick skull is as empty and brains as a ladle, while F is F sharp, and will cry with a cough that he knows the best joke from his cradle. When you're sure that they flop his mind himself go, and it does put you off when a person says, "Oh, I've done that old joke from my cradle." The master is surly from getting up early, and tempers are short in the morning, and an opportune joke is enough to provoke him to give you at once a month's warning. And if you refrain, he is at you again, for he likes to get value for money. He'll ask then and there, with an insolent stare, if you know that you're paid to be funny. He adds to the toss from a merriman's place, when your principal asks with a scowl on his face, if you know that you're paid to be funny. Your head it may rack with a bilious attack, and your senses with toothache you're losing. Dopey and flat, we don't find you for that if you're properly quaint and amusing. For your wife ran away with a soldier that day, and took with her your trifle of money. Bless your heart, they don't mind. They're exceedingly kind. They don't blame you so long as you're funny. It's a comfort to feel, though your publish is split, though you suffer a deal, they don't mind it a bit. They don't blame you so long as you're funny.
Strange adventure, maiden wedded to a groom she's never seen, never seen. Groom about to be beheaded in an hour on Tower Green, Tower Green. Groom in dreary dungeon lying, groom as good as dead or dying, for a pretty maiden sighing, pretty maid of 17, 17. Strange adventure that we're trolling, modest maiden, gallant groom, gallant groom, while the funeral bell is tolling, bim-a-boom, bim-a-boom. Modest maiden will not tarry, though but 60 years she carry. She must marry, though the altar be a tomb. Tower, tomb. Tower, tomb. Though the altar be a tomb. Tower, tomb.
Dear Card, please ask my dear old friend why, when I have spent my entire life chasing the sacred muse of serious music, it is only now I realize I've been writing serious music all along. I'm going to go to Switzerland for a while to work on a new piece, something serious, comic opera for Gilbert and me. But please, if he asks where I am, don't tell him. I want to work on this one alone and then surprise him with it.
Dear Cart, no one seems to know at what royal buffet Sir Arthur is dining right now. I need to speak to him. Please advise.
Dear Cart, word has just reached Switzerland of the Duke of Saxe-Coburg's death. I'm afraid it's upset me dreadfully. Another of my oldest and best friends is gone.
I can't stand the solitude. This quarrel that has driven Sullivan from me must end, and yet I, the writer of 1,000 words, do not know what to say to him. So closely allied have been our lives and our art that, separated, I have a feeling of incompleteness. It's almost as though ours had been a marriage.
Finding it increasingly difficult to work here, I decided the other day to return to London, perhaps even to work with Gilbert again. I was caught in a torrential rainstorm, the result of which is that a chill which has settled in my throat has become inflamed and extremely painful, and nearly robbed me of the power of speech. Oh, how I wish I was in England again.
I was reading an article in the paper about this the other day. It said that the vinegar of Gilbert is indispensable to the oil of Sullivan. The writer seemed to think that I know and have used almost every word in the English dictionary, having placed several of them there myself. Except one. Compromise.
I felt very seedy all week, just making work on this new piece almost impossible. Pain from my throat has become incessant. I am awfully nervous and in terror about myself. Last night after dinner, I suffered another sharp attack from my kidney.
Dear Cart, I, William S. Gilbert, author of the retort courteous, the quip modest, the reproof violent, do hereby wish to enter into the quarrel vanquished. I will write to Sullivan in whatever mecca of adoration he now resides, and tell him the truth.
I got up at midday today, feeling shaken to pieces and very nervous after the attack. I struggled up and tried to work, but without much success.
Dearest friend,
It is the inability to work that frightens me most of all, and it continues to close the qualms of gloom around my mind.
know this. This is what I want you to know.
I haven't finished the piece yet. First, from illness and physical incapability. Second, from nervous terror and brooding about myself.
Despite our differences,
And feeling yet weaker. But I don't worry about dying in my sleep. I don't sleep that well.
always be, and will always remain my partner.
It is such a lovely day today. Really, I'm sorry. Leaves such a lovely day.
A shadow falls. I feel a strange disease coming on me. Humility. Dear Mr. Gilbert, I have the pleasure to inform you that I am permitted by His Majesty Edward VII of England to propose that you should receive the honor of knighthood. In recognition of your distinguished talents as a dramatist. Dear William, enclosed is the score for our new opera. It is some of the best work I have ever done. I think I shall not be able to finish it, but you should have no difficulty in persuading Offenbach or some other lesser composer to see to its loose ends. It is the wonderful story of a magic lozenge. Sullivan, you must be out of your mind. This is the worst story I have ever seen.